So the dynamic in our society is beyond many people's ability to be honest about, is what it really comes down to. It's not that they don't know about it, it's they're not willing to be honest about it. When it's addressed in a way that is like a honest outsider, that's when they start acting like they're under attack and start building up defenses and preemptive strike offenses. That's how most things are handled in the international political stage, because our world is run by sex workers. All those morons out there that have sex work minds that have been on the side of my family because of the sex work mindedness that is the reason for my family problems. You see, my mother, from the perspective of many, is considered a villain unless they're trying to make themselves look better than me. Now, my mom is a villain because she's moral. And that wasn't giving my dad what he wanted. So he would go see prostitutes. Now, since my mom was moral, and moral is no fun, my siblings, and moral also kept me from being aborted, my siblings went full-blown supportive of my dad's deviant behavior and that kind of side of the culture's behavior. I grew up feeling very similarly, although I didn't have, thank God I didn't have the same upbringing. My mom made sure I had a good foundation starting off. It wasn't as chaotic as my siblings were, that were raised in the Catholic culture, which is run by sex workers and Johns. Or at least it used to be. Everything still is. People don't just disappear unless you're a psycho and you start wars to make people you don't like disappear. People have the right to change. It's not my right to get rid of anybody, and it's nobody's right to get rid of anybody. I put a lot of effort into learning how to change people's minds. But thanks to my family and all the people who helped them ruin my family and my life, I can't help I can't help in the way that I could have, that I have the ability to. Because these people that are pushing now, they're pushing because they've been pushing for over 2 decades already. And most people don't know that the degenerates are rebelling against the idea of not being in power, not having full control of the world, and progressing it towards some enlightened empire, which is really just human trafficking, sex work, hiding it as, so that nobody that is around that doesn't like it knows. That's progress. Progress is masterfully hiding your dirty laundry and making sure everybody knows that you are the highest of nobility. That's the state of the world. And it's the state of the world that it's been in every time there's an empire. So, the thing is the people who need the advice on how to get out of the crap they keep getting themselves into won't take it because they don't want it from people who know better. They want it from people within their community. That's why things are always, whenever they try to make sure that the only people giving opinions are people like them, everything starts collapsing and going out of business. Because you literally can't run based on, you can't run any kind of business while you're also trying to control what everybody thinks and says and acts like North Korea or any other country that uses the same kinds of technology to control everybody. Propaganda, manipulated spiritualism, which is why nobody has any faith in religion, because the social masters that know that they, that think they know everything, which are some of the people who are rebelling against the people rebelling against the people who are just trying to help. You know, it's like, if you have a problem solution, it can't include sex work being bad for society or for an individual or for everybody together, or everything related to exploitation and systematic manipulation on large scales. You know, it's basically, it's like a cult taking over a country and then being allowed to do culty things to everybody because it's not illegal. Even though our Constitution says it's illegal, nature defines it as illegal, because anybody who does stuff like that never has good karma. Never. Their life is hell, nonstop. You know, but they're used to it, so they just blame whoever's weak. You know, they take it out on whoever's weak. So, you know, their culture tries to blame everybody else for what they do, as if they're just copying what they saw. And the thing is they didn't have to copy. You know, they weren't children when they were learning these things. Some of them were. You know, some of them were. You know, there's some crazy people out there that think that if they condition their kids properly, they'll become the right kind of person. And that never works, because humans aren't that complicated. They're not trying to raise humans, they're trying to raise a good slave, so that they can get along with the rest of the slave. They're basically house N-wording their own offspring. You know, they're enslaving their own offspring, so nobody else has to do it. And since part of becoming a normal human is learning to conform to human nature, and that's not just, you know, you don't get forced to conform, you learn to conform, because it is human nature. You'll learn it, and you start getting good at it. That's how you conform to it. You know, you accept it and get good at it, because it's nature. It's what you're designed to be good at. So you get good at it, and you get good as much as possible. That's your nature. That way, everything else gets easier. So, anyways, I feel like I'm going off on a tangent. But people are writing futures for themselves that they can't survive. And it's because they're going along with things, and they think that they can't stop. They think that if what's changing keeps growing, that eventually it'll be snuffed out, like it always is, like all opposition to the brothel casino is. You know, that culture everybody's actually mastered. You know, instead of mastering human nature, they master surviving in the brothel culture and going unnoticed so that they're not abused, or abusing so that they're not the abused, because they think that's how the dynamic works. You know, you either learn to use force or it's used on you, you know, that kind of thing. I mean, you can turn all of it any way you want. You twist it for narratives and stuff, but it's not that complicated. You know, the people who do it make it complicated, because the people who do bad things make excuses up. You know, they overcomplicate things to confuse people. You know. So, but humans are limited by reality and nature. You know, everything else is made up. So, you know, people can believe the things that they make up for themselves. You know, that's just how it is. You know, it doesn't make anything that they believe real, you know, or worthy of consideration as real, just because they say it is. You know, lying is really easy to do, you know, because people are easily fooled. And people who aren't easily fooled, they still get lied to, and they still fall for lies. You know, it's just how it is. You know, everybody's trying to be, you know, to master things beyond what's naturally possible, and then they'll delude themselves into thinking that they have. You know, it's like those scammers that everybody knows not to expose to their face. You know, because they fight to maintain the deception. So, if their deception fails, instead of regrouping, retreating and regrouping, they attack. You know, it's like if you don't have any cash and someone tries to ask you for money and then they mug you, to see if you were lying because they assume you were lying. It's that kind of mentality. It's crazy. So, but that's the rebellion. That's how the rebellion is. It's crazy. It's based completely on made up stuff. I mean, even the media and the people who are like pro-vax and stuff like that, they just make the stuff up. They don't actually go into the science and learn anything. They don't know how. People like me that know how, we get discredited because we go against the marketing. Because the marketing isn't just trying to sell a product, it's trying to use a product to control the population. Literally. To control how you think, how you feel. Not usually for the better, by the way. And then they hide the statistics to show the health status of people who are and are not treated with those solutions. You're not allowed to look things up. If you do, you'll become the enemy. You'll become a terrorist to their definitions. They'll call upon the mob to come down on you. That's what started happening at the nursing home when I was with my mom at the nursing home and helping around there, trying to figure things out there as an auditor. Big mistake, especially in New York State. There's no one to tell things on to. Nobody actually cares. They do all that stuff on purpose. They think you have to do it to control the population because we're overpopulated. And if China and India have to murder their own people, then everybody has to share the burden and murder their people too. That's how fucking stupid this shit is. And they're all okay with it, the people in charge, because they're nothing but a bunch of miseducated retards and literal upper-class prostitutes. And I'm not exaggerating. Everything that I state is understated. Everything I state is understated. And if I actually describe things as they really were, I would literally get taken down for psychological terror. That's how fucked up the shit is that's going on. And why things are going on. And what they do in response to things. And how they control the human farm through things that they put into everything that we consume and breathe and drink. And our entertainment. You got a bunch of morons trying to teach everybody lessons, and they don't realize how stupid they are. It's literally Alice in Wonderland. We are Alice in Wonderland trying to learn about what the hell is going on in Wonderland from the people who live in Wonderland and the people in charge of Wonderland, and expecting to be able to get some kind of resolution, and not understanding that every time we try, it just gets worse. And you just start getting seen as a threat. Because those places that are there to help you elevate the response to things are actually barriers to stop that from happening. To stop you from bothering the people bothering you, that you don't really know are bothering you, because you're not allowed to know. So, good luck, I guess. There's people living the right way, and there's people who aren't. And the people living the right way, no matter what happens, while they're alive, they'll be happier and more content. And right now, today, that's the best you can hope for. So in the end, I help more people be happier. A lot more people be happier. To a level that seemed impossible to the ruling class prostitutes that run everything. because they gave up, because they're useless. They're too broken. They shouldn't be in charge of anything. But they're pirates. They took everything. They took it. They took us. God knows how long ago. Who the fuck knows? This shit's been going on forever. So, this is not the natural human state. No matter how these idiots want to educate themselves. Because the thing is the rebels on YouTube, they believe the exact same science. The exact same assumptions about things. So the people who claim to be oppressed, I'll tell you something, they're not the Trump supporters. Not actual Trump supporters. Actual Trump supporters, they barely go online. They barely go online. There's nothing to benefit them online. They know it. Everybody knows it. So even the Trump supporters on BoobTube aren't really constitutionalists at all. Not in the slightest. Not in the slightest. Because it's a platform in a brothel, and everybody allowed to speak is a John or a sex worker in mind. And you have to abide by their rules. Which are, if you find out how it's actually enforced, things start making sense. But since most people are raised and part of the structure that is the brothel, it's you know, it just goes right over their heads. They don't see it. They don't see it at all. You know, their brains are almost designed, you know, they've trained their brains to disassociate whenever it happens, to just ignore it, because in order to go down that path to figure it out, it leads to pain. Because it does. The only reason I've been able to know so much as I know is because nobody cared. Nobody cared about me knowing. I was retarded. You know, so nobody cared about me knowing. I was either considered retarded by my siblings and my family, my immediate family, and whoever else wanted to agree with it, or, I forgot what I was going to say, because I keep trying to explain things that I'm saying, and then I lose track of what I was just saying. It's a rant. It's my life, you know, so, you know, I got other things that I need to do, like get ready for work, you know, and get better at work, you know, that kind of thing. So, and try to get myself out of this financial black hole that I'm in, you know. And then there's the whole social political thing, you know, the everybody treating me and, you know, like I'm a, you know, neo-Hitler, and then trying to act like I don't exist, like they don't know that I'm there or whatever. I don't know how to describe it. It's very bizarre. You know, it's like, because of my family's connection to it and how long it's been going, you know, they think of it more like dealing with a retard, you know, so they don't want to encourage me, you know, stuff like that. Whereas they really don't know what I'm doing or why I'm doing it, because they don't know shit about my degree at all. Not a slight little clue at all. All they know is that I worked on computers, because that was my hobby, you know, and I knew my limitations, you know, and I knew the kind of things my degree could do, but I didn't know necessarily the extent of it, you know, because it's one of those things where it's like, when you go for a degree, you're supposed to already know what jobs they're for. And when I went into the IT, I went into it because I thought it was interesting. 90%, and I might be underestimating, 90% of the people who were in the degree that moved into it or went into it the same year that I did, went into it because people were saying there's money in IT. And the money in IT that they were talking about was not the IT at RIT. It's not the same thing. A lot of the prerequisites, the early courses, the undergrad courses, are can be associated with IT. It includes programming and stuff like that. But it's like that kind of stuff you can learn on your own. You don't need a college education to program. Literally, it's like I learned to program in high school. So it's like I didn't learn to program in college. I learned to program in more languages in college. But again, it's something you can do on your own. It's like once you learn how to program, you already know how to learn to program. So you can teach yourself to program anything after that. A lot of times, the only thing you're missing is an efficient learning style. So, what a tangent. I'm going off on tangents. Anyways, yeah, I'm talking about my family's incapability of understanding, because I was never close with my family, so I never really bothered telling them because it didn't seem important to me. Now I know, they're part of people spying on me and recording things that I was doing and saying and all this other shit, because, based on what they wanted to assume of me, they wanted to accuse me of terrorism and such things, and anything that they can think of, anything to shut me up and stop embarrassing my retarded sex work loving family, And I got nothing against the people who suffer in that field, but it is what it is. It's self-enslavement most of the time. If you're volunteering for it, you're enslaving yourself. You're reprogramming your brain to be like a slave master. You start thinking about yourself as a product, and you start thinking of other people as products. And then people like that end up in management and politics and legal and all this other shit and medicine, and they start deciding who is and is not worth surviving our attempts to save the world from overpopulation, care of the wonders of Eastern education, because everybody knows how great Eastern education has always been for the West, if you know anything about history, which most people don't. I grew up being romanticizing Asian culture, but it's like I still knew people, it's like I knew what I was romanticizing was gone. History, that people want to, rebuild those traditions is good, because traditions are there for a reason. You can, it's like the Constitution. If the Constitution had a part in it that was completely irrational, it can be taken out. And the same thing can be done with traditions, But some things, like say, not eating pork. If you look into it, you find out pork is a risky meat if you're not careful with the meat. So, if you don't, that's basically it. That's basically in a nutshell. I mean, the same thing can be said about any meat, though, but I mean, it's like, there can be natural reasons for that kind of thing. One thing is our bodies are made for red meat, red mammal meat, so that's the meat that our bodies use the best. That's just the way it is, but, and meats that aren't really, I don't know how to describe it, aren't as good. I mean, we can eat anything, but, meats that aren't as good might just be considered bad or unholy, because when you eat the same amount of the other meat, you start losing strength and muscle mass. So the meat itself drains you of your spirit, so to speak, your strength. So, I mean, that's all it takes to make rules to warn other people from doing it, and if something like that was to be what actually happens, then that's a good warning. It's not, it's worth not completely ignoring, which is why so many so many things people disagree with remain in the biblical text. You know, even stuff that's just like completely not something that should be in the Bible. You know, that's almost like fan fiction. You know, in the Bible. You know, it's just crazy. But you know, it's one of those things where it's like there are certain parts that are actually parts of some person's personal life Bible. You know, because we all have a personal relationship with God. You know, affects us personally. You know, he's not going to do for us what needs to be done for someone else, because he does for us what needs to be done for us. So we end up having our own religious relationship with God, and the Bible, at least, you know, like the first 5 books, gives the essence of what the relationship with God is and what the nature of God actually is. And it helps make the other stories that are written by people who followed the same God make more sense, you know, because their stories are written by them and it reflects themselves with their religion in that environment at that time, in that situation, and how they responded to it, how they felt and thought about it, and things like that. That's the essence of most religious texts, you know, at least as far as the kind we have put together, you know, with all the extra stories and stuff and all the extra books. You know, they're there to reassure us mostly that we can never be outside of God's mercy. No matter what we think we're seeing, what God's actually doing is not done the way we often feel it is. So, you know, God's not limited by our perspective or our intelligence or our ability to understand. You know, God is literally everything already. It's the spirit in everything and the vessels everything goes into. So nothing can comprehend things the way God can. You know, God comprehends things to the point where he's helping everyone and everything at the exact same time and having it all work together. And that's a level of control that is so far beyond our ability to comprehend. The only reason I'm even able to understand it and put it into any kind of words at all is because I've healed the connection to the Creator at a point in my life in the past. I rebroke it with booze and stuff. My life, once I got connected, I realized what was going on in my life, and I didn't want to feel connected while I was enslaved by people controlling me, and treating me like a villain, and basically making it so that all the things I actually want to do in my life, I can't. Not the way I would be able to, like without them inhibiting me, the people who love me would actually help me, and I would be able to go wherever I wanted. That's how things work. And my siblings hate that. They hate that. And they've literally done everything that they can to sabotage that because they can't stand it. They're jealous as hell. They can't stand my nature. They can't stand it. They can't stand it because I'm the family retard. I'm not supposed to know more than they do. I'm not supposed to be able to understand things they can't. They're privately schooled. They went to private school for elementary school. You know, I went to a private school for college, and the public school I went to is probably the best public school in the state. Just saying. Might not be filled with the best public school students. You know, like all colleges, you know, it's like the resources can only do so much. You know, the people have got to actually learn. You know, they've got to learn to learn in order to make it something that they can enjoy. You know, enjoy doing. You know, that we're forced to do it our whole life. It has a lot to do with why we don't like it. I mean, if it was actually voluntary, most people would probably do it just to not be bored. You know, they would do some school anyways. You know, they'd be doing their gardening and hunting and, living life and stuff, and then they would take courses. Why not? It's all we do online. It's what we try to do on YouTube and stuff like that when we're watching videos on YouTube, is learn things. Anyways, I'm going off and on and on. So I said bad words again. My video is probably going to get taken down, or I'm going to get a strike, because I'm offending people who don't know how to take words in stride and how to control their emotions, because they don't have to. Apparently we all have to live to make sure the Queen never knows that the roses were ever painted red. Ever. If we ever speak in a way that makes everybody uncomfortable about what they're hiding and lying about, well, that makes us the enemy, doesn't it? It's fucking retarded. Anyways, I love y'all. Good luck.